There comes a moment in life when the world you thought you knew begins to tremble, not with earthquakes beneath the soil, but with a subtler, more profound shaking that ripples through the soul. If you are here, listening to these words, it may be because you have felt that tremor yourself, the sensation that something vast, mysterious, and deeply personal is trying to break through the walls of your ordinary existence. Today, we will journey into one of the most misunderstood yet sacred truths of the spiritual path: why only the strongest souls experience this awakening symptom. And before we unravel this hidden tapestry, I invite you to stay with me until the very end of this exploration, for the closing may carry the key you have been searching for. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, so that each time we open these ancient doors together, you will be there to walk through them. The idea of an awakening symptom may sound strange, almost clinical, as though spirituality were a disease that leaves its trace upon the body and mind. But in truth, awakening always presses itself through the vessel of human life in ways that can be deeply disruptive. Like lightning striking a tree, the current of higher awareness does not politely knock at the door of your consciousness. It shatters the wood, splinters the frame, and sets fire to what no longer belongs. To the unprepared soul, this feels like chaos, but to the strong, it is revelation. Consider the river that has been dammed for decades. Behind the wall, water gathers, pressing with silent force, building and building until its pressure can no longer be contained. When at last the wall cracks, the release is overwhelming, terrifying yet necessary. This is how awakening arrives. It is not a soft whisper, but a force of inevitability. And those who are called to endure it, those whose inner walls are shattered by it, are not chosen at random. Only the souls tempered through lifetimes of fire, silence, and struggle are ready for such a breaking. What makes this symptom of awakening unique is not that it appears only in a select few, but that it appears with such intensity and persistence that it can no longer be ignored. For many, the whispers of spirit remain background noise, fleeting glimpses at the edge of dreams. But for the strongest souls, the symptom manifests like a persistent knock in the chest, a disquiet that no distraction can soothe. It is not a sign of weakness or fracture, but of readiness. Like a deep drum echoing in a cave, it resounds because the chamber is vast enough to carry it. Imagine walking through life wearing a mask that has grown so close to your skin that you forget it is there. Awakening rips that mask away, and suddenly the light of the world feels unbearable. Your eyes sting, your heart aches, your very sense of self quivers with the strange question, who am I, if not the mask I once believed? This question is not for the faint of heart. It tears at the roots of identity, dissolves comfort, and leaves behind a silence so deep it feels like standing at the edge of eternity. And yet, those who carry the strongest souls find within that silence a strange recognition. They do not run from it. They tremble, yes. They fall to their knees, yes. But somewhere in the trembling they sense the faint outline of destiny, the awareness that this fracture is, in fact, the birth of wholeness. Strength, in this context, is not measured by bravado or the armor one wears in the world. It is measured by the soul's capacity to endure the collapse of illusions. The strongest are not those who never feel pain. They are those who allow pain to carve them deeper, to make them more spacious, more attuned to the hidden symphony behind life's apparent chaos. They are like mountains weathered by centuries of storms. From a distance, the mountain looks immovable, but up close one can see the scars of wind and rain etched into its surface. These scars are not marks of defeat, but of endurance, of beauty made possible only through surrender to the forces that would seem to destroy it. And so it is with the awakening symptom. To the uninitiated, it feels like something has gone terribly wrong. sleepless nights, inexplicable heaviness, waves of sorrow or ecstasy that seem to come from nowhere, a feeling of being cut loose from the ordinary rhythms of life. To the strongest souls, however, this is not a breakdown but a breakthrough. It is the soul announcing that it is ready to shed its old skin, ready to face the light of its true nature without flinching. We must understand, awakening is not a gentle sunrise. It is more akin to being struck by lightning and set ablaze, only to discover that the fire does not consume you, it reveals you. And this fire, this burning away of illusions, can only be endured by those who have been quietly prepared through unseen trials, often across lifetimes. It is no accident you feel what you feel. It is no coincidence that your nights are restless, that your questions gnaw at you, that life's old patterns no longer satisfy. These are not signs of weakness or instability. They are the unmistakable fingerprints of an awakening soul, one strong enough to carry the weight of such transformation. When a seed cracks open underground, to the casual eye it looks as though it has been destroyed. Its form collapses, its shell disintegrates, and all that it once was dissolves. But only through that destruction can the green stem break free, rising toward the sun. What the unawakened may call collapse is in truth the first step toward growth. And so, this symptom you feel, the disorientation, the trembling, the ache that will not leave, this is the cracking open of your shell. It is the moment your soul refuses to remain hidden in the soil. Throughout history, mystics, poets, and sages have hinted at this moment. They called it the dark night of the soul, the death before rebirth, the rending of the veil. They all knew that only a rare kind of strength could carry one through such a passage. Not the strength of domination, not the strength of intellect, but the strength of surrender. To walk willingly into the fire, knowing that on the other side, something greater waits to be born. This is why only the strongest souls experience the awakening symptom. It is not favoritism, nor is it punishment. It is the natural resonance of a soul that has reached a certain depth. Just as only a seasoned diver can descend into the ocean's depths without collapsing, only a soul prepared across lifetimes can withstand the crushing, liberating pressure of awakening. So, as we begin this journey together, remember this: if you have felt the tremors of awakening, if you have sensed that strange, unrelenting current pushing against your heart and mind, it is not because you are broken. It is because you are strong enough to be broken open. You are standing at the threshold of a mystery that countless others have never touched. And the symptom that feels like a burden is, in truth, the unmistakable sign that your soul is ready for a greater unveiling. This is only the beginning. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the core themes and concepts hidden within this experience, uncovering the universal patterns that reveal why awakening strikes in this way and why it is inseparable from strength itself. If the introduction opened the doorway to this mystery, then this section invites us to step across the threshold and sit with the deeper truths at its center. To speak of why only the strongest souls experience this awakening symptom, we must first understand what it actually is beneath the surface of appearances. It is not simply an emotional disturbance, not merely a psychological shift, though it may wear those disguises. At its core, it is the friction between illusion and truth, the grinding of tectonic plates beneath the surface of consciousness. The symptom is the sound of reality realigning itself within you. Awakening, in its rawest essence, is the dissolution of falsehood. The human being, born into the web of culture, memory, and personal story, is dressed from birth in layers of masks. These masks are not sinister. They are the scaffolding that allow us to live, relate, and survive in the world. Yet, there comes a moment, for some, when the scaffolding begins to crack, when the soul within aches for a freedom that no external identity can provide. That ache is the symptom. It manifests as discontent even in the midst of comfort, as emptiness even in the midst of achievement. To the untrained eye, this looks like failure, but to the awakened heart, it is the signal that a greater horizon is approaching. The reason only the strongest souls undergo this shift with such intensity is because strength here is not the absence of wounds, but the capacity to endure the unraveling of everything familiar. Imagine a spider's web being dismantled strand by strand. For a time, it feels as though nothing remains to hold you together. But those who carry the strength of soul recognize, even in the collapse, that something larger is weaving a greater pattern. This recognition is what allows them to withstand the dizziness, the despair, and the sense of being lost. They are not spared from the storm, but they carry within them a compass that points toward the unseen shore. One of the core themes in understanding this awakening symptom is paradox. Awakening is always two things at once. It is both the breaking and the mending, both the death and the birth, both the emptiness and the fullness. The strongest souls are those who can hold paradox without shattering, who can sit in the fire of contradiction without demanding that it resolve too quickly. They understand, perhaps unconsciously at first, that truth cannot be compressed into neat answers. It must be lived through storms, carried in silence, and eventually embodied as a state of being. Another theme is the interplay between light and shadow. Awakening is not simply the flooding of light into the soul, it is the illumination of shadow, the confrontation with all that has been hidden. For the strongest souls, the symptom often arrives as a heightened awareness of their own buried pain, unresolved wounds, and collective suffering. This is why the process can feel overwhelming. To carry awakening is to carry both the light of divine recognition and the heaviness of human brokenness, often simultaneously. Yet, this is not a mistake. It is the very alchemy of transformation. Gold is only created when fire touches the dross. Underlying all of this is the universal pattern of death and rebirth. Every culture, every myth, every spiritual tradition has carried echoes of this cycle. The hero descending into the underworld, the seed dying in the ground before sprouting, the phoenix burning to ash before rising. The awakening symptom is nothing more, nothing less than this eternal rhythm playing itself out in the vessel of your own life. And the reason only the strongest souls undergo it with such depth is because they are aligned to this archetypal rhythm at a profound level. Their souls have ripened enough to endure the descent, not as an accident, but as destiny. There's also the theme of resistance versus surrender. The symptom is often magnified by resistance. The more one fights against the current, the more violent the turbulence becomes. Yet surrender does not mean weakness. It is the strongest act of all. To surrender is to trust the unseen intelligence guiding the process, even when the mind screams for control. The strongest souls are not those who never resist, but those who eventually let go, who realize that the storm is not here to destroy them, but to carry them to a new shore. On a more cosmic level, the awakening symptom can be seen as the soul vibrating at a frequency higher than the old patterns of the personality can sustain. The dissonance between the two creates friction, and that friction appears as the symptom. Think of a musical instrument slightly out of tune. When a pure note is played, the strings that are not aligned vibrate uncomfortably until they are retuned. Awakening is the retuning of the soul's instrument. The strongest souls are those who can withstand the dissonance long enough for harmony to emerge. This theme also reminds us of another truth. Awakening is not a privilege given to a few. It is the destiny of all. But just as not every fruit ripens at the same time, not every soul is ready for the intensity of this cracking open. Those who experience it now, in this lifetime, are simply those who have ripened earlier. And strength, in this sense, is nothing more than readiness, The willingness to endure the storm because something within you knows that beyond the storm lies the sky you were always meant to inhabit. The awakening symptom is therefore not a curse, not an error, not a random affliction. It is the call of destiny echoing in the deepest chambers of your being. It is life insisting that you can no longer live small, no longer confine yourself to the illusions that once kept you safe. And the reason it feels so heavy, so impossible at times, is because you are carrying not only your own unraveling, but the unraveling of countless generations of silence, denial, and fear. The strongest souls are chosen for this because they can carry it, not as victims, but as vessels through which something greater is born. And so, as we settle into this understanding, let us see the symptom not as something to be feared, but as evidence of the strength you carry. If you feel restless, broken, disoriented, it is not a sign of failure. It is proof that you are being called into the deeper story of existence, a story written not in the language of comfort, but in the language of transformation. In the next part of our journey, we will go deeper still, entering into symbolic narratives that illuminate this truth in ways beyond the intellectual. Through allegory and metaphor, we will glimpse how this awakening has been encoded in myth, in nature, and in the timeless language of the soul. There are truths that cannot be spoken in the language of fact, truths that slip through the fingers of reason like water through a sieve. To understand why only the strongest souls experience the awakening symptom, we must look not only to philosophy but also to story, myth, and symbol, the ancient mirrors of the soul that have always carried wisdom in a form the heart can recognize even when the mind cannot. Consider first the story of the phoenix, that eternal bird of fire. Legends say it lives for centuries, radiant and majestic, until one day it feels a stirring deep within its being. Its feathers grow heavy, its wings falter, and it is seized by a great weariness it cannot shake. To an outsider, it looks like decline, like weakness, like the end. But in truth, it is the sacred symptom. The phoenix does not die from decay, it dies from awakening. Its body becomes a pyre, its spirit a flame, and in the agony of fire it is consumed. But from the ash, a new phoenix rises, stronger, brighter, free of the weight it once carried. The fire was not its enemy, it was the doorway to its next self. This story has lived for centuries not because people believed in mythical birds, but because the phoenix is a mirror of the soul. When the awakening symptom strikes, you too feel the weariness of old wings, the heaviness of illusions that no longer serve. To those around you, it may look like collapse, but in truth, you are preparing to rise. Only the strongest souls can endure this burning, for it is not the fire of destruction, but the fire of transformation. Let us turn now to the ancient tale of Inanna, the Sumerian goddess who descended into the underworld. She was queen of heaven and earth, radiant with power. Yet she felt the pull to journey into darkness. At each gate of the underworld, she was stripped of a garment, a jewel, a symbol of her status, until she arrived naked before her sister, the Queen of Shadows. There, she was struck down and hung lifeless upon a hook. To the ordinary eye, this is defeat, humiliation, annihilation. But to the mystic's eye, it is awakening. For when Inanna returned to the world above, she did not come back as she once was. She returned with a deeper wisdom, tempered by the darkness she endured. The awakening symptom mirrors Inanna's descent. It is the stripping away of everything you thought you were, the removal of masks and titles and roles. You feel naked, exposed, undone. Yet only the strongest souls willingly walk this descent, for they sense what lies on the other side, a self reborn not in superficial light, but in the depth of truth. Even in nature, the same narrative is told. The caterpillar weaves itself into a cocoon, and inside, something unimaginable happens. It does not simply sprout wings while keeping its caterpillar form. It dissolves. Its body turns to liquid, its very structure undone. If consciousness were awake in that moment, what terror it might feel, what despair in the dissolving of everything familiar. And yet, from that seeming annihilation, wings emerge, a creature born for flight. Only the strongest souls are given this cocoon of dissolution, for only they can bear the dissolving of their old selves to rise into a form that was always their destiny. The awakening symptom, too, is a kind of cocoon. You feel yourself dissolving, your identity melting, your certainty gone. And though it feels like death, it is in truth the beginning of flight. There's also the story, often overlooked, of the seed. Planted deep in the soil, it appears to rot. Its shell cracks, its form is destroyed. But within that cracking, a hidden life surges forth. The soil is dark, the process painful, yet without it, no tree could rise. The strongest souls are those who dare to see their symptom as soil, as the pressure that forces their hidden life into expression. Even the great heroes of myth mirror this pattern. Odysseus, wandering for years, broken by storms, tempted by illusions, facing the ache of loss. His journey was not punishment, but the necessary unraveling before return. Or Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and was chained in agony, only to embody the very light he delivered to humanity. Each of these stories carries the same current. The symptom of awakening is never ease, never comfort. It is always the crucible, the burning, the breaking, and yet it is through this crucible that greatness emerges. If you have felt this symptom, this restless discontent, this aching emptiness, this burning that will not be soothed, then you are standing within these same myths. You are the phoenix in fire, the goddess in descent, the caterpillar in cocoon, the seed in soil. And the fact that you feel it so deeply is not because you are cursed, but because you are strong enough to live the story consciously. Symbols whisper truths that reason cannot. The fire, the descent, the cocoon, the soil. These are not abstract metaphors, but living realities of the soul's evolution. They tell us that the awakening symptom is not random suffering, but initiation, a rite of passage written into the very fabric of existence. And they tell us that only the strongest souls endure it, because only the strongest can hold steady while their old self dissolves into the unknown. Strength, in this light, is not hardness. It is the willingness to be broken open. It is the courage to stand in fire, to descend into shadow, to dissolve into nothingness, trusting that the story of life has always held rebirth on the other side. This is the hidden narrative pulsing through the symptom you feel. You are not broken. You are mid-transformation, living the same myth that gods, heroes, and seeds have carried for all of time. As we prepare to leave the symbolic realm, let us carry these stories not as distant tales, but as mirrors of your own unfolding. The phoenix, Inanna, the caterpillar, the seed, they live in you. Their fire, their descent, their dissolving, their rising. This is the very shape of your awakening. In the next section, we will step out of the symbolic and return to the ground of everyday life. We will explore how these vast narratives of awakening can be integrated into your real-world experience, how to live with this symptom in your relationships, your choices, and your daily walk without losing the cosmic perspective. The awakening symptom is not a relic of myth, nor a tale bound to the dusty pages of ancient texts. It lives here, in the pulse of your daily life, in the way you wake from restless sleep, in the questions that invade your thoughts at work, in the quiet tears shed when no one is watching. And though it wears the robe of mystery, it always asks the same pressing question: how will you live now, knowing what you know? To integrate the awakening symptom into the fabric of real life is perhaps the most difficult stage of all, for it is here that the cosmic and the ordinary must meet. You are asked to carry lightning in your veins, while also paying bills, tending to relationships, and walking through the grocery store. It can feel absurd, this vast expansion of consciousness colliding with the everyday grind. Yet, it is precisely in this collision that the alchemy of awakening becomes complete. The first real-world implication is the transformation of perception. Once the veil has cracked, you no longer see life the same way. Ordinary routines feel thinner, like stage props barely concealing a deeper reality. Conversations that once entertained you now echo with hollowness. Success measured in possessions or status loses its flavor. This can feel like disorientation, even loss. But hidden within this shift is liberation. You begin to seek depth instead of distraction, authenticity instead of performance. The strongest souls are asked to live this way, not withdrawing from the world, but moving through it with new eyes. Relationships, too, undergo transformation. Awakening reshapes the way you connect with others. Some bonds dissolve because they were built upon illusions that no longer hold. Others deepen, becoming more transparent, more vulnerable, as your heart learns to inhabit its raw truth. This can be painful, especially when people you love cannot understand the changes unfolding within you. The symptom then becomes a test of loyalty, not to external approval, but to the call of your soul. To integrate this is to stand in your truth even when others misread it, to love without clinging, to walk away when necessary, not out of anger, but out of alignment. In practical terms, the symptom often brings periods of solitude. The strongest souls may find themselves craving silence, retreating from noise and busyness, not out of rejection of life, but out of a need to recalibrate. This solitude is a fertile soil. It allows the scattered fragments of identity to dissolve and reassemble in a new way. But solitude can be mistaken for loneliness, and this is where strength is again required. To sit in silence without rushing to fill it, to listen to the whisper of your own spirit, is perhaps the most radical act of integration. The body, too, is implicated in this process. Awakening symptoms often manifest physically. Fatigue, surges of energy, strange aches, cycles of restlessness and stillness. For the strongest souls, the body becomes both the battleground and the temple. Integrating this means learning to honor your physical vessel, not as an obstacle but as an ally. Rest when rest is needed. Move when energy surges. Feed the body with what nourishes, not numbs. The awakening symptom is not separate from the flesh. It is the spirit pressing itself into matter, and the body must be cared for accordingly. On a societal level, the awakening symptom often brings a radical shift in values. You may no longer resonate with the endless chase of productivity, the competition for recognition, the worship of material accumulation. This can create tension, for the world is designed to keep you asleep, to keep you running in circles. The strongest souls are those who, while still participating in the world, quietly rewrite the script of their lives. They begin to prioritize meaning over success, presence over performance, contribution over consumption. The symptom becomes a compass, guiding choices that reflect the deeper reality you now know to be true. Integration is not about perfection. You will stumble, you will question, you will fall back into old patterns. But each time you return to the center, each time you remember the truth behind the trembling, you strengthen your ability to live it in the ordinary. This is the hidden gift. The awakening symptom forces you not only to awaken in spirit, but to embody awakening in flesh, word, and deed. And here lies perhaps the greatest real-world implication: service. Once you have carried the fire, once you have endured the descent, once you have been cracked open, something shifts irrevocably. You realize that your awakening is not yours alone. It ripples outward, influencing others, even silently. The strongest souls are not asked to awaken for their own sake alone, but for the sake of the collective. The symptom is the initiation into this role. It is the sign that you are strong enough to hold a light others have not yet seen, to anchor a truth others cannot yet name. To integrate the awakening symptom, then, is to accept both its burden and its blessing. You learn to walk with the ache without letting it define you. You learn to live in a world that often misunderstands you without losing compassion for it. You learn to carry your fire without burning out, to descend into solitude without rejecting community, to honor your body while embodying your soul. This is not an easy balance, but it is the path of strength. And so, in the ordinary rhythms of your life, the symptom becomes not a curse, but a guide. It is the reminder that you are more than what the world sees, that your existence carries a depth untouched by passing circumstances. Each restless night, each ache in the heart, each shift in perception is part of a greater orchestration, the merging of your soul's eternal truth with your human form. In the next section, we will gather all of this, the cosmic, the symbolic, the practical, and bring it into a unified vision. We will close with a conclusion that is not merely an ending, but a call to transformation, a reminder that this symptom is not only to be endured, but embraced as the very sign of your destiny. There is a moment, after the storm has raged and the fire has burned, when the air grows still. You stand amidst the ashes of what once defined you, and though your body may tremble, your spirit knows. You have survived. More than that, you have been remade. The awakening symptom, once unbearable, is now recognized for what it truly was, the echo of a larger truth pressing itself into your life. The divine whisper insisting that you are more than flesh, more than memory, more than fear. As we look back across this journey, we see that the symptom was never random. It was the seed cracking in soil, the phoenix burning in flame, the goddess stripped in the underworld, the soul trembling on the threshold of its greater self. And we see, too, that only the strongest souls endure it not because they are chosen in some arbitrary way, but because strength, in its deepest sense, is readiness. You were ready to be undone, ready to be remade, ready to let truth carve you open so that light could pour through. Strength here has never been about conquest or control. It has always been about surrender. It is the willingness to kneel before mystery, to admit that the scaffolding of identity cannot contain the infinite, to endure the paradox of being both nothing and everything at once. Only the strongest can surrender this way, because surrender requires trust, and trust requires a soul tempered by countless nights of silence. And now, the call that arises is not simply to understand, but to live. The awakening symptom is not a phase to be endured and then forgotten. It is an initiation into a new way of being. You are asked to walk the world with new eyes, to embody authenticity even in the midst of illusion, to carry compassion even when misunderstood, to shine light without arrogance, and to honor your humanity even while remembering your divinity. This is not the easy road, but it is the road of the strongest souls. You may wonder, what now? What do I do with this fire, this trembling, this endless call within me? The answer is not found in grand gestures or distant futures. It is found in how you live today, in the way you speak to those around you, in the way you honor your body and listen to your heart, in the way you refuse to numb yourself when the symptom grows heavy, choosing instead to lean into the discomfort and find the truth it hides. Integration is not about abandoning the world. It is about inhabiting it fully, as the awakened being you now know yourself to be. And so this is the invitation. Do not curse the symptom. Do not run from it. Recognize it as the sign of your strength, the evidence that you are not asleep, that you are alive in a way many are not yet ready to be. Let it guide you, not with fear, but with reverence. Each time it rises within you, let it remind you that you are in the middle of the sacred story that countless myths and mystics have always pointed to. You are not outside the great narrative of awakening. you are living it. If the world tells you that you are broken, smile gently, for you know the truth. You are breaking open. If your heart feels heavy, remember the seed in the soil, the cocoon dissolving into wings, the phoenix rising from flame. Your heaviness is not an ending, it is a beginning in disguise. And when you falter, when the ache feels too great, recall this simple truth. Only the strongest souls are entrusted with this passage. You are one of them. This is your transformational call. Do not let the fire go to waste. Do not hide from the silence that is asking you to listen. Do not shrink back into illusions that no longer fit. Instead, walk forward, not with haste, but with presence. Carry your symptom as a lantern, illuminating not only your own path, but also the paths of those who walk near you. Let your awakening ripple outward, a quiet revolution that touches hearts without needing recognition. In the end, the awakening symptom is not a punishment, nor is it a privilege. It is simply the sign that life has chosen to live more fully through you. And your task is simple, though not easy, to say yes. To say yes to the trembling, yes to the breaking, yes to the unknown, yes to the light that longs to shine through your cracks. For in your yes, the world itself awakens a little more. And so, as this journey comes to its close, let us leave with a reminder. You are stronger than you believe, and the very symptom that feels unbearable is a proof of it. Do not flee from the fire. Rise within it. Do not mourn the breaking. Celebrate the becoming. For you are not here to survive awakening. You are here to embody it, to live as its radiant expression. This is why only the strongest souls experience this awakening symptom, because only the strongest can carry its weight and reveal its light. And now, it is your turn. Live it, embody it, become it. The world is waiting.